Electricity generation companies are spending billions of dollars on renewable energy infrastructure to meet the global trend towards decarbonisation. I'm Madison Reedy from Jarden, and I'm going to help explain the rush to renewable energy in New Zealand, the incentives driving it, why consumer demand will eventually meet supply, and how it could reduce electricity bills. Jarden's Director of Equity Research, Swanepoel, is watching investment in renewables ramp up significantly.
All the generators are adding renewable generation over the next 2 to 3 years, which should add about 9% to our total grid supply. So that's a big start. There's a big spend from these guys, and it should continue as long as we have a line of sight on where demand's coming from.
This wind farm owned by Meridian in the North Island has some of the tallest turbines in the country, at 130 metres high. Grant expects renewable generation from wind farms will soon be complemented by more solar farms.
Wind's becoming a little more difficult to build because it takes a lot of contracting. It's a bit difficult to resource consent. And also the maintenance contracts are a bit more difficult than what it would be if you just had a solar farm. Maintenance contracts easier, resourcing is easier, the type of land you need is easier, and all you really need is good sun and a grid connection. So we see a market potentially where you can get at least 2,000 to 3,000 gigawatt hours of solar into our market, which is around about a 7% of our market peak. But, that's over the next 5 to 10 years.
Lodestone Energy is a privately held company committed to solar. Its chief executive, Gary Holden, explains why they're pursuing it.
Well, solar is an attractive investment, mostly because it has free fuel. But it has the added advantage of being able to build quickly. We can build a solar farm in sort of 4 to 7 months, depending on the terrain. And that combination of renewable energy, fast to build, makes it a great choice because you can add them quickly all over the country.
Swanepoel believes incentives are encouraging new investments.
They've got to be economical, otherwise investors would not be supporting these spends. But also you've had government incentives like the Clean Car Energy discount, etc. And if you can convert just half of the residential cars, you're going to add around about 15 to 20% extra generation requirement. That's a lot of more renewables that will be required. So the market sees that.
Those commercial and consumer incentives are providing confidence to power companies to meet renewables targets.
The brilliant part about things like adding solar is it can match the growth of demands like electric cars. So as the fleet converts over a 10-year period or a 15-year period, solar farms can be added to keep almost exactly in pace with that.
And with all of these incentives and all of this supply coming into the electricity system, are there any concerns about oversupply?
The market is always concerned about oversupply. It is one of our big concerns. There's definitely demand growth coming over the next 10 to 20 years. So if you go into subtle oversupply, which I think the market will continue doing, you'll quickly build that out.
At almost 100% renewable, what could that mean for consumer pricing and also reliability? Will we still be able to turn the lights on if there's no wind, sun or rain?
That's a very important question. There always is the trade-off between trying to get to 100% renewable, trying to keep the cost not too punitive, but making sure you keep the lights on. This is what the electricity companies are working on to make sure that there's a renewable type of storage. We've got a full renewable system. Particularly our costs of renewables in our country are pretty good. It should lead to reasonable pricing from an electricity standpoint in New Zealand and a decarbonised society.
New Zealand's power generators are putting their money where the incentives are, making investment decisions with decades-long horizons. They're costly but courageous steps to meet environmental targets and could benefit consumers' wallets. To ensure the increased focus on renewables succeeds, Jarden believes incentives and support must continue, and certainty of pricing and consumer demand must be maintained, meaning the more electricity we use, the easier the transition could be. Stay tuned for what's happening in the global economy in our next Jarden Insights.